Well, good afternoon and welcome to MedTech Crossroads. That was our remote version of the start of the show. We're so glad you're here. I am inexplicably somewhere in the middle of Indiana to do a show that's mostly about Michigan and all the cool stuff that's been happening in Michigan over the last month. So we're really glad to be able to do that, and I'm doing it remote, so hopefully all the tech works, but it's good to be with you today. I'm going to bring up our PowerPoint that we normally share because we are sharing COVID news as usual. I'm going to bring that up right here. And today we're talking COVID Connect, as we always do, the latest COVID news from CDC. After that, some announcements about what's happening in July. We got some cool stuff happening. Right after that, Stacey Frankovich and Paul Riser from MedHealth and TechTown will be with us to share some really exciting news that their organization has achieved recently. And then right after that, Stephen Rapundalo of MichBio, they just had two MedTech related events bringing FDA experts to our community in the last month, and Stephen's gonna be telling us about that. So lots to talk about. After that, the pitch party, and it's supposed to be a twofer today. Two pitches today before our judging next week. We're looking forward to that at the end of the show. As always, Q&A and community check-ins. If you got stuff to tell us, be ready to share it at the end. We'll make you live and you can share it if it's of interest to the MedTech community. But first, COVID metrics and vaccine distribution, all this from covid.cdc.gov. And it's generally great news. Generally great news. The cases have never been lower. The testing shows a low positivity rate in the state of Michigan. Deaths very, very low as well. Lots of good news, thankful all around. This graph of hospitalizations shows roughly the same thing, dropping way down to levels we haven't seen in recent memory. And this graphic that has become a bit of a mystery over the last 3 months, showing very well today, as you can see, the community transmission level in the state of Michigan down to moderate or low with very few outliers. That's great, but that has not been the case for the last 3 months. A little talked about, it was red, and you can see that from that graph. It's hard to interpret on the right. You can see that for months there, the community transmission rate of COVID was extreme, even though hospitalization and deaths were not really that high. This is something of great interest and something we don't hear talked a lot about. We haven't had here internally the expertise to explain this, and yet we're going to announce something here in just a few minutes that I think will help us get to the bottom of this, because it's a really fascinating thing that we just haven't heard discussed in the media. Why was the community transmission rate so high and yet deaths and hospitalizations so low? Here's the vaccination picture. Michigan ranking 23rd. That's up a couple notches from where we were even last week, I believe. And in terms of the vaccination administered, well, this continues to be a straight line in the downward direction, having dropped under 1 million doses per day from a peak of, over 4 million on some days. So that's definitely coming down. Sounds like most of the people who want to be vaccinated have, and this is starting to dwindle off. Hospital admissions, great news there, mostly green, exception the state of Kentucky. And Michigan has made it up to 34th place in the state, in the country in terms of hospitalizations. Sadly, we had been dead last there for a while, but that's certainly looking better. Well, I told you that there was some news, and that news is Dr. Philip Levy from Wayne State University. If you remember last year, Dr. Levy came on the show, and he cut it both ways. He was very, very clear in his opinions and his analysis of what was happening. There was no sense of trying to take one side or the other. He just wanted us to understand what was really happening. So I'm pleased to announce that Dr. Levy will be back with us on July 2nd. And he's going to address not only this community transmission question, but also what he's seen is happening with COVID and where it goes from here. In conversation together, we both lamented how politicized COVID has become And Dr. Levy is prepared to cut through all of that and just talk to us about what's happened and where things could go from here. So we're looking forward to that on July 2nd. Please join us with your questions for Dr. Levy as he'll be unpacking all of this. Of course, he, among other things, emergency medicine and a bit of a COVID czar for the university. And so he has been front and center for a lot of this. Also an announcement in partnership with our friends over at MedHealth. And in just a few minutes, we're going to hear from Stacey and Paul. 2 special episodes of MedTech Crossroads coming up. The first one on July 16th. We are going to have a panel talking about COVID vaccines, boosters, and variants, those things that seem like a bit of a mystery and everyone talks about them. We're going to hear more about them. And then on July 23rd, we're going to discuss the Detroit-Windsor border. Of course, under normal circumstances, there's so much that happens across that border. People live their lives on both sides of that border, and that's been shut down. When should it reopen? Among others, Dr. Levy rejoins us on the 23rd for that specific question of when should this international trade really reopen in earnest. And we're looking forward to bringing both of these episodes to you in partnership with our friends over at MedHealth. And speaking of MedHealth, I want to welcome Stacey Frankovich and Paul Riser on the show with me today. Stacey and Paul, welcome back.
So great to be back. Good to see you, Gene.
It's great to see you guys. I didn't really realize that there were a lot of trains going by here in rural Indiana. Who would have thought? So I hope you all enjoyed the train whistle in the background. But it's great to see you guys. For those who are not intimately familiar with what TechTown and MedHealth are all about, I'm wondering if you guys can first give us a little primer.
Yeah, real quick, I'll take that. So yeah, thanks again for having me, Gene. I've been now at TechTown for 8 years. Time flies when you're having fun, but TechTown, for those who may not know or maybe are less aware, we kind of consider ourselves Detroit's entrepreneurial hub. We help tech startups and local businesses to launch and grow businesses. We're kind of an incubator, accelerator, and a physical space. So kind of this 3-legged kind of approach to entrepreneurial economic development. And that means helping businesses with co-working and office space and meeting space, and obviously technical assistance services, connecting them to the right resources at the right time, lots of learning and networking. So we work with a myriad of great partners all across our region in various sectors and types of different organizations and businesses. So it's been a great ride. TechTown has been in existence for now over 20 years, delivering services for over 15 years. And we were actually co-founded by Wayne State, Henry Ford, and General Motors. So a long history in this space of entrepreneurship. And so somewhat along the journey of that work, one of the opportunity areas that I saw and with some of the other co-founders of MedHealth was really in this area of healthcare. You know, one of our most important and one of our largest industries in the state of Michigan. But also, if you think back, I think, 6-7 years ago, pre-Affordable Care Act, very siloed, and not as collaborative, I guess, as one might want or as patients would want for connectivity purposes, for reducing friction in the marketplace and ease and move of data, introduction of innovation and solutions that can be extrapolated and or translated across institutions. So having those stakeholders in the room, we felt was one of the first ways in order to break down some of those silos and walls, bringing innovation closer to payers, providers, private sector, and governmental healthcare agencies. And so MedHealth was really born on that premise of 3 kind of core pillars for us to be able to, convene, connect, and educate providers, payers, funders, health systems, economic development agencies, service providers like Intervene, universities, and of course, innovators at the core of all of this work. So it's been great. It's been over 5 years now. Gene, I think you were there in the very early days, if not the very beginning. You're probably one of those folks that I bounced this crazy idea off of. and you said, hey, give it a shot, or let's actually give it a shot. So appreciate you being along for the ride and really being a key contributor. So thank you so much.
Yeah, it's been a great and growing resource, and we understand you guys have some pretty exciting news. Stacey, you've been with MedHealth directing things for the last oh goodness, how long has it been?
I think it's been about 18 months now.
Okay, I was going to say about a year and a half, and already making some cool waves. Tell us about your news.
Oh, so I'm really excited about this, and yeah, starting a new job and having COVID hit just several weeks later was awesome. But you know what we learned in those early days of COVID was, you know, the state was trying to pull resources together and see what we had within the state as far as PPE and manufacturing and who could pivot and do what and who had what resource. So as a result of this, we submitted a proposal to the US government, to the Economic Development Agency, or Administration, excuse me, through the CARES Act. And we were just awarded a wonderful grant through the EDA that is going to help us do some great work that can expand MedHealth, but can also position us to be useful in times of crisis and emergency through some of what we've proposed. So if you don't mind, I'll just kind of talk a little bit about the biggie, the big one that we think can be real beneficial in the future should we have a health crisis, you know, similar to this again. So back to what I said, the state's trying to gather resources and understand. We all know that PPE was a chaos kind of crisis. And what we are proposing is to develop a collaboration platform. So a brand new website that is going to house all of the state resources. We'll be able to interact with manufacturers. We'll be able to interact with academia and see what types of research and tools they have at their disposal in the events of a crisis. We can work with our economic development partners. We can work with our innovators, and we can work with any state resource that is out there. And in normal times, when we're not in the midst of a crisis, we are really excited about this platform and the ability it has to matchmake and to help university researchers find innovators, to help with the commercialization path forward, to help our entrepreneurs find the Michigan resources and the manufacturing resources and the resources like what you do, Gene, as far as helping people understand their FDA pathways and the regulatory side. So we're really excited about this commercialization or this collaboration platform that's going to allow us to bring a lot of resources together and be able to do faster, leaner kind of matchmaking for whatever your specific need is. So that's the big one that the EDA came back and said, this sounds great, we're going to support you on that. And then a few things with MedHealth, as Paul mentioned, we convene, we connect, we educate. We always are pushing for high quality events like the webinars we're partnering with you with next month to ensure people understand COVID, the vaccines, the boosters, all that's next, the importance of opening the border to our full economy and how that looks. We do partner closely with Windsor and our partners across the bridge or through the tunnel, and we want to make sure that we're able to continue that collaboration and get the borders open safely. But on top of that, we host summits, an annual summit, which is a live event usually here in Detroit, not during COVID, of course. Matchmaking events, mixers, all kinds of different things that brings key stakeholders together to have a lot of those thought leadership types of discussions and try to look at what's next. So we have good work coming. We're going to really promote what Michigan has to offer. We want to bring more funding sources into the state. We want our entrepreneurs to stay here and do business here and support the ecosystem here. So we have a lot of good things coming, and the support of the EDA is just a little feather in our cap that what we're doing is on the right track. So I'll kind of stop there and see if Paul wants to add, or if Gene, you have questions.
I don't have anything to add personally. I would just say that, you know, it's so important, I think, to mention, and I know we probably got maybe another minute, if that, before we have to segue, but this has been a journey, a passion project it kind of started out as, but it's really grown and it's been able to grow and to get to where it is really because of the amazing partners. Gene, you being one of them, our great steering committee. We had some people who really showed some support and gave us a shot early on, when it was very much in conceptual stage, of folks like MEDC, PMBC, New Economy Initiative, William Davison Foundation, public sector consultants was instrumental in every step of the way in just helping us to figure out what we didn't know and help us to refine what we thought we knew. Obviously, TechTown's leadership has been amazing, and our partners across in Windsor and all across Ontario, all across the state of Michigan. And I'd be remiss, obviously, to not thank the innovators who give us the opportunity to support and assist them. So it's just been a family affair. And we couldn't have done it with all of those that I mentioned. And I apologize if I couldn't mention the dozens of others who have really helped us get here.
I know we have to get our thank you speech distinct so that we don't miss anybody.
Yeah, you get in trouble when you start naming people.
You guys have always been so good at bringing people to the table and just sharing the spotlight, and we wanted to take some time today and share that back, because this is really cool, and it's cool that it enables you to do that. What was interesting to me about the EDA grant is it sounds like this came out of the need for, we can't communicate quickly enough about PPE, right? That's what sort of originally drove it. But it sounds like you guys are now looking at that as a way to just improve communications anytime you need to put groups together. Is that a fair way to summarize?
Yeah, absolutely. So like I mentioned, in normal times, the whole goal is to really make that fast matchmaking, so that our entrepreneurs aren't trying to sift through what's out there, but that we're able to get them to the right connection at the right time. And then, of course, in crises, being able to get the right resources at the right time. You did such a fascinating, wonderful job talking about the emergency authorizations, getting manufacturing up to speed on how they can pivot and provide PPE. And we want to make sure that all of our stakeholders know that all of this work exists when we are in the midst of some type of chaotic event or crisis. And God willing, we're not in one anytime soon. But it would be nice to be able to make those connections really, really rapidly and quickly.
Yeah.
One last question there. In terms of connections, speaking of, are there people that you'd like to reach out to you with regards to this or anything else that's going on with MedHealth or with TechTown? Are there connections you guys need made that people should be looking to make and reach out to you guys?
I can actually, lean in and say that, and I'm sure Stacey will add to this, but, we started out with a focus, kind of a land and spread kind of philosophy of starting in Southeastern Michigan and Southwestern Ontario, and kind of proving out this model and making sure that we couldn't, in fact, deliver the value that we hypothesized. And now over the course of the past, 3 years or so, we've really started to expand. So really want to make sure that everyone who's listening today knows that we have an open door policy. We're working with folks not only across Michigan, but also even in other states. So we have partnerships with Scale Health in LA, and we have partnerships with, work with TMC in Texas and Matter Health in Chicago. So to that point that, solutions don't have borders, nor do the challenges that they're trying to solve and to address. So we're looking to attract talent, attract businesses and ideas, even outside of the borders of Michigan, and show them that Michigan is a great place where they can grow a company and really, land their solutions here. So just kind of wanted to make that announcement.
Yeah, we appreciate that so much, and congratulations on the EDA grant. And it sounds like it's going to be a great thing and a great connection and great resources to do some cool stuff to connect people. That's of course what we love to do, and we've learned so much from you guys as well.
Thank you for doing what you do.
Thanks for being here, guys.
Thanks, Gene. Thank you as always for the work you do. Appreciate you. Thanks.
Stacey Frankovich, Paul Riser, thanks for being with us today.
Thanks.
That is great, great news for the state and for the region, because it's more stuff that's happening to connect people in the world of MedTech. And of course, the whole PPE thing, that's part of the reason the show got started, right? Was getting people connected to acquire PPE was such a hard thing. We didn't have the resources to do that as readily as we wanted. And so that's neat to see this long-term coming out of it. Well, next up, my next guest, Dr. Stephen Rapundalo. He is the president, CEO, and longtime community member, MichBio. Welcome, Stephen.
Afternoon.
Let's see, we've got an audio. There he is. I'm doing well. It's good to see you. I know you were a busy man this afternoon. We appreciate you making time for us. I have always said, Stephen, that you are a person that connects people. And many times those are in the halls of government. Many times those are in the world of bioscience. And of course, MichBio, long time member of bio and representing bioscience interests in the state of Michigan. And I've often been amazed how you can bring people from our favorite agency in the world, the Food and Drug Administration, to the table. And you've done that now twice this last month. So we thought we'd have you on the show to talk about, for those who weren't able to attend, to talk about two events that you guys had through MichBio that brought FDA voices right to our community virtually. But some great formats there. So love if you'd unpack those for us.
Yeah, well, first of all, thanks for having me again. As always enjoy being part of this show. Yeah, it's been a busy first half of 2021 for us. We've had several events, and as you mentioned, we had two in the last 2 weeks. And I think our heads are still spinning from convening all of those. But yeah, 2 weeks ago, we hosted the first ever Michigan Forum on Digital Health, which was really an attempt on our part to try to begin to bring together the so-called digital health community across the state. You know, we've prided ourselves over the years, and you know this very well, Gene, on the caliber of speakers and thought leaders that we can bring to these events. A lot of those are built, we're able to do because they're built on long-standing relationships, and certainly none more important than folks at the FDA. And so with the digital health, the keynote was Bakul Patel, who is the relatively new executive director of the Digital Health Center of Excellence in the Center for Medical Devices and Radiologic Health. And I've known Bakul for many years, and he was kind enough to agree to kind of headline that event. But you know, we had other sessions during that day. This, of course, was a virtual event. We began by sort of wanting to set the stage of, you know, what is digital health? Because even starting with what's the definition of it, because many people have different ideas of what that includes. But we had a phenomenal panel. The chief medical officer of Microsoft Health. We had directors of digital health, both at Pfizer and at Boston Scientific, to kind of get the pharma and the MedTech perspective. And then we had the chief product officer at Avia Health based in Chicago. And these are all folks who live digital health day in, day out. And it was a remarkable way to open the event and sort of lay a foundation for the discussions that followed, talking about, you know, what the cutting edge innovations that are advancing, what are the trends that are emerging on any number of levels, not just technological, and how are those dynamics going to shape sort of the future trajectory of digital health. And then we, as the day wore on, we sort of kind of went a little deeper. So the next session, we began talking about, brought some thought leaders about some of the challenges and the headwinds that are present in digital health world. Things like pricing and reimbursement, data privacy, cybersecurity, these kinds of things. And the latter topic, of course, certainly was interwoven with Bakul's comments that I was had the opportunity to moderate that session, and we began by asking him what the definition of his definition, or the FDA's definition, of digital health. We talked about their priorities and their action plan. We dove into some of the specifics around software as a medical device and pre-market submissions for managing cybersecurity and medical device interoperability. I mean, it was a host of issues, and he was just phenomenal in what he was able to relay to folks. And then in the afternoon, we had some breakouts, everything from a tech showcase featuring some innovators from across the state. We had a session on what it is like to be a founder of a digital health company. I think one of my favorite sessions was the one about adoption strategies. And we had folks from health systems. We had a patient point of view, which is not something you really hear about a lot. All in all, it was just really a phenomenal first time event. And then we followed that up pretty much the same type of format, but we held our second Med Device Summit just this past Wednesday. We had held one in person, the inaugural one 2 years ago, where, as you know, we had hosted Jeff Shuren, the head of the Center for Medical Devices and Radiologic Health at the FDA, and a UM alum. This time we wanted to feature the cybersecurity as a major topic, and we had the acting director of the FDA's cybersecurity program, Kevin Fu, who actually is a University of Michigan faculty on leave, on loan to the FDA for the year. And so he kind of headlined that event. But similar to digital health, we started the day with some industry trends. We had really a powerhouse session there with the likes of the president of Stryker Instruments, the president of AutoCam Medical, a big contract manufacturer, and then the president of Thompson Surgical up north in Traverse City, actually, more of a smaller mom and pop OEM. So they all brought different perspectives to how the med tech industry is evolving and growing, what the impacts of the pandemic have been, whether in the short term or longer term. Covered things like labor shortages and dynamics in the global marketplace. We had and that was followed up by what I think is probably one of the best sessions on regulatory and med devices that I've seen in a long time. It was specifically focused on the international landscape, but Kim Troutman, who was a former senior FDA official for many, many years, just gave a spectacular presentation, very comprehensive. And it's somebody remarked, it's amazing that any device gets reviewed and approved, given what they have to go through in terms of regulatory review, and not just, and obviously across many different countries with many different processes and regulations. And then that was followed up with of course, with Kevin Fu, who that was a superb session. He talked about threat models and everything cybersecurity related, and what companies, big or small, should be thinking about, should be doing. And then again in the afternoon, some breakouts, another tech showcase of this time med device companies from around the state. We talked about going global and entering foreign markets. We talked about US and domestic regulatory and quality compliance to major issues, particularly given the kind of the upheaval in the FDA because of the pandemic and their, the distractions that caused. So it was, both sort of jam-packed, content-rich, superb thought leaders for both events, all of which was recorded. All of those sessions are now available, even to those who didn't participate on the days of. Those are available for purchase to view. Yeah, it was pretty exciting, but I think we're a little tired and ready for a little break before we begin the fall session of programming.
Most people spread things out. Look, if I'm going to just take over the medtech world, I'll do it over, of course, of a few months. And you guys just kind of boom, there we go.
Well,
and FDA folks at both.
Well, some of that our hand was sort of forced in some respects. I mean, as you recall, we did a BioTalent Summit back in February. Then in the April and early May timeframe, we did our annual sort of Capital Day in the state Capital Day for biosciences. We did those virtually, so that actually over 3 weeks, beginning with a state of the bioindustry report, and then 2 following weeks or days of weeks where we touched over 70% of the legislative offices in Lansing. I mean, it was unlike anything we've ever done. And we had a lot of our partners, universities, innovators from different sectors, including even cannabis science, who participated in those meetings, pushing key priorities that we feel are critical to support the growth of Michigan's bioindustry. And then of course that was followed up by the 2 events that I described. So it's it's been busy. One would think that these virtual events are pretty laid back and easy to do, but in fact, I think in some respects there's probably more work that goes into them than certainly meets the eye to the casual observer.
Well, you guys made it look easy, and it was very impressive to have these kind of folks here. I remember for the international session that you referenced, it does sort of boggle the mind, and our practice is regulatory as you get over there into Europe, and now with Britain, Brexit exiting the EU, and as folks who spend more time in Europe are sort of unpacking it, you're going, oh my goodness, how is this going to work?
Well, yeah, and even and now even Switzerland has its sort of version of Brexit, right? So, I mean, it's one thing after another, and then there's never a dull moment in Southeast Asia and China and that neck of the woods. It's really, I don't know how companies stay on top of it all, either via their own internal staff or having to outsource that. And either way, it's a lot of work, it's a lot of money. It's really quite something to get a product. And of course, we had a session on, like I said, on entering foreign markets and some of the challenges that companies, especially smaller OEMs in Michigan, have. And it's not just about challenges about entering a market. There's even decisions that are made about exiting a market because of this or that, not the least of which because of regulatory. And then we had another fascinating session on supply chains and how those have been completely upended. And is there a case to be made for reshoring here in Michigan, like some other states have already begun to do, so that we don't find ourselves in a situation similar to a year ago, where people were just beside themselves and trying to find this or that and everything.
Yeah, and it was a big challenge. It's one that I know in the early days when the show was COVID Connect, we would often reference a particular thing that had happened a number of years ago when the U.S. government had put funds in to develop a low-cost ventilator. And it had been funded, developed, designed, prototype. The prototype was basically sold to a large company that many would recognize the name of. And that company, after a few years, decided to shelve it, even though we had, as a country, we had a $3,000 ventilator that worked and was meant for exactly this purpose. And I think this is the challenge that we find ourselves in now, is very much how do you keep that vigilance up as we look forward towards the future and as things sort of calm down for the moment. But
well, and that's the worry, right? Because we seemingly have short memories, and history obviously repeats itself. Now, in the case of the pandemic, at least for the U.S., this is sort of on a 100-year cycle. But we've had small little ones that haven't evolved, fortunately, into something major. But that's not to say it won't happen tomorrow or next month or next year or 10 years from now. And so that vigilance has to be there. The resiliency in supply chains has to be there. I from the political sort of view, I can't fathom the state of affairs that the federal government found itself in some year ago or so, with basically empty shelves. I mean, it's just baffling. So I hope somebody's working on all of that and making sure that it won't happen again. I mean, there's certainly plenty of rhetoric around that. I guess we'll see if that's actually true. But in the meantime, our focus needs to be on growing the industry here in Michigan. And I think the C-suite unplugged session with the leaders really demonstrated the breadth of what we have. They talked about the growth that they've seen, but the challenges that remain to not only maintain that growth, but even grow more. So
if you're out there and you are working on a startup, especially if you're in digital health, if you're in cybersecurity, if you're wanting to deal with international device clearances, you can go to MichBio.org, it sounds like, and if you want to get back to those sessions with Kevin Fu and Bakul Patel and Kim Troutman, those are available.
They are, and I should also point out that we do have a MedTech committee that our committees or interest groups are comprised of our members, and we have put out a call. We have launched a digital health one as well. We welcome folks to come in and engage and partner, be able to commiserate with others in their respective sectors and domains, and try to learn and help each other out to a common cause, which is growing the industry here.
And one does hope if we stay better connected than maybe we all were before, things like this will go better in the future. Thank you for doing so much, Stephen. We really appreciate that and appreciate you being here today.
Oh, you're quite welcome.
Stephen Rapundalo, President MichBio. Thank you as always. Great events. Well, that's wonderful. Well, next up, I want to share with you what is the last week of pitches for our $2,500 quarterly pitch party. As we said when this whole thing got started, it's not really a competition, it's more a party. We just want to talk about what we like, what we don't like, that is our judges, like and don't like about the pitches that they see. Because it's hard to pick winners and losers in this. Not all the same companies are in the same verticals. They're not all working on the same thing. You can't really compare them against each other. What we're looking to do is wow the judges with the cool way that we present our information, that completeness of that information, and not missing too many things that they might be looking for. The plan, as always, is if you have a pitch deck for your company and you'd like to send it to pitchparty@medtechcrossroads.org. It's a 10-minute presentation, and at the end of every quarter, we're presenting $2,500 to one fortunate startup. Our startup this week, first of all, our judges. Andy Rader, he's the managing partner at Evergreen M&A Partners. Dr. Nikki Kennedy, our vascular surgeon friend and founder of Arbor Hive. Jim Metzger, the president of Keystone Solutions Group, a turnkey development and manufacturing house on the west side of the state. and Stacey Frankovich, who we just heard from earlier today, the program manager over at MedHealth. Those are our judges. They will be on with us next week, judging the pitches that we have heard to date this quarter. And speaking of pitches this quarter, I want to welcome on Amanda Cook, who is the VP of Product Marketing with InheRET. Hey, Amanda, how are you doing?
Hey, Gene, doing well. How are you?
Thank you for your patience and thank you for being here with us today. We are excited to hear all about what you guys are doing. I want to bring up a timer right here. And well, let's see. This is the fun thing when we're traveling is we might not actually have our timer. Okay, Amanda, sorry for the non-professionalism. We've got it. We're going to put 10 minutes on the clock for you. And you're going to get your screen share up there as soon as you're ready.
All right, I'm ready.
Awesome. We are going to kick Amanda Cook off to tell us all about InheRET.
Well, thank you. So, hi, I'm Amanda Cook. I'm the Vice President of Product Marketing and co-founder of InheRET. InheRET is a SaaS company that empowers patients, their families, and their providers with complete, portable, and actionable hereditary risk information. Patient engagement for hereditary disease is a missing piece of the precision health equation, and we are solving that problem. In the United States, hereditary risks for cancer are present in more than 60 million people. That's 1 out of every 5. Yet only about 10% of them are aware of this. And sadly, more than 60% of individuals undergoing genetic testing already have a cancer diagnosis. This eliminates their opportunities for risk-reducing prevention. And those risk-reducing opportunities for prevention can be up to 96%. So this brought our question, why? How can this be? What's the barrier? The barriers lie in a big data problem. Data stored within the EHR, electronic health record, is only updated when the patient is in office or for their annual visit or a new patient visit. Providers simply don't have time to take detailed family health histories, let alone analyze those histories against current guidelines. And they can't possibly keep up with almost daily advances in molecular testing for cancer risk. And frustrated patients are asked to complete complex health forms over and over and over again at every visit with every specialist. So InheRET is the solution to the problem. Written at a 4th grade literacy level, we've created an engaging and interactive family history gathering tool that patients can share with their family members. So by removing those barriers, InheRET strengthens the patient and provider relationships, while providers take comfort in knowing that their patients are being evaluated against the most up-to-date guidelines every single year. Here's how it works. Patients easily enter the family history using any smart device. And from this, InheRET creates the detailed patient pedigree and analyzes the patient information against current national best practice guidelines using our patent-pending proprietary algorithm. And InheRET immediately gives the patient and their healthcare provider a clear report letting them know of the patient risk. Do they make guidelines for referral for genetic counseling? Or do they make guidelines for genetic testing? And if they're appropriate for testing, we indicate what genetic test should be ordered and assist with that test ordering process. And we also offer full integration into any electronic medical record so that the data is visible for anyone treating the patient. The market has piqued interest from other health history companies, but none of them provide all the features that we have validated in our studies and proved to drive billable revenue. Competitors offer a quick risk platform focused only on colorectal, breast, and ovarian cancer as a one-time assessment, while InheRET incorporates the most comprehensive guidelines, including melanoma, medullary thyroid, and other rare cancers. InheRET keeps patients engaged through regular and customizable reminders to update their family information, which then gets reevaluated against current guidelines. After conducting 3 pilot studies on over 2,000 patients, we documented a dramatic increase in health histories completed from less than 60% before InheRET to over 94% while using InheRET. We detected the 1 in 5 individuals at increased risk. And at-risk individuals drive revenues. They're billed at a higher level and require follow-up imaging, testing, and treatments. So in fact, our study analysis showed that one genetic counselor using InheRET was able to counsel an additional 144 patients who went on to receive laboratory and imaging tests, as well as some choosing prophylaxis and therapeutic treatments. So this generated an additional $809,000 in billable revenue. So as a SaaS solution, we market as a B2B2C and patients being the end user. We're focused on creating annual recurring revenue through multiple business channels, including health institutions, accredited cancer programs, laboratories, and employers. So from license fees for health institutions to integration fees for laboratories and other genetic services to employer benefit per employee fees, each market builds on the other, increasing the value proposition. More employers results in more providers, resulting in more testing for the laboratories. So ultimately, individuals, those patients, receive the biggest benefit, the key to prevention. Since we incorporated in 2018, we've achieved our milestones at a brisk pace, releasing 2 versions the first year, obtaining our STTR Phase 1 grant in 2019, and then being awarded again for a STTR Phase 2 grant in 2020, then filing our patent and securing our first commercial contract in late 2020. It brought us to our commercially available product, currently used in clinic. And today, we are releasing InheRET 3.0, and InheRET 3.0 will revolutionize the field. We've already converted our pilot sites to customers and are signing integration contracts with large laboratories and other telehealth services. We've also secured a contract with a major academic health system of up to $500,000 in sales, as well as additional clinic contract negotiations, including a nationwide telegenetics service organization. We're already on track to pass our expected revenue for 2021. So with our defined sales and marketing strategies, we expect to be EBITDA positive by 2024 and have growth to 7 million by 2025, which includes increasing our staff over 3-fold, as well as planned product development growth. We're an experienced team with strong business and medical credentials, as well as key contacts in our discipline. I'm the VP of Product Marketing and have been leading the development of InheRET since its inception. Dr. Karen is our CEO who, in addition to his academic credentials as a professor of pathology at the University of Michigan, has spent 22 years as the CEO at the helm of Ward Medical Laboratory, increasing their revenue tenfold with a Rolodex of hospital contacts. Kelly Hall, our new VP of Sales, is well known in the healthcare system with several years of experience in the genetic software industry. And Dr. Sophia Mariver is our Chief Scientific Officer. She's an internationally renowned clinical oncologist who sits on the board of the National Comprehensive Cancer Network that creates many of the guidelines used. We've also brought together an amazing advisory board with experts in the field, from patient advocacy to sales and marketing to AI and to health IT. InheRET has raised $3 million, mostly in non-dilutive, and created a state-of-the-art product that is commercially available in clinic now. Our ask for $500,000 expands our sales and marketing force, expands our research and development, will help file additional necessary patent protections, and sets the stage for expansion to all adult hereditary diseases. Our pending grant application provides an opportunity for investors of matching funds, 1-to-1 on your investment, of up to $3 million. Some of our competitors were acquired early on by laboratories. Assurix Health was acquired by Myriad for $200 million, and Genome Smart was purchased by Ambry for $100 million just this year. And Cancer Gene Connect was acquired by Invitae. We are confident that InheRET will be viable entree for electronic health record companies, pharmaceuticals, precision medicine initiatives, and laboratories. And we've established strong relationships in each segment. So join us today as InheRET changes the way millions of people are empowered to take action with hereditary risk information. Thank you.
Well, and thank you, Amanda. We appreciate your taking the time to come on the show. As we've said before, this is a little bit of a strange pitch party because we don't ask questions because our judges review all the pitches at the end. But we do have one question we always like to ask, and you've been with the company since early on, and that is about your own passion. Why is this something that you're passionate about? What is it that drives you to keep you doing this? Because startups aren't easy.
Thank you so much. I laugh. When I first started on the project, I had taken a class in genetics in college and then slept and forgot all about it. So when I came onto this project, the field was so intriguing and there was so much advancement in the molecular genetics field, and it has just been rapid fire since. The other part of this is that my family and me in person have dealt with the genetics issue ourselves. So, and I often say that if I had taken an aspirin a day, I could have kept my stroke away. So that definitely it hits home for me, and this is why we continue to do what we do.
Well, thank you for sharing that story, Amanda, and for sharing InheRET's story as well. I hope you'll tune in next week when our judges are here reviewing all the pitches, and they're going to have comments and thoughts about all of them, and tip their hat towards one lucky winner. We really appreciate your being here today.
Thank you so much, Gina. I appreciate it.
I appreciate you. Our next pitch I just found out as the show was starting, a family emergency. Apparently he had tried to send an email last night that we did not receive, probably because I'm traveling. I believe what we're going to do, even though it won't be on a live show, is we're going to try to allow that pitch to happen early next week. If you're on the mailing list for the show, we'll send a link to that so you could watch it before the judging next week. But we're going to try not to let family emergencies be a miss there. So we'll try to make sure that that pitch gets in. And that brings us really close here to the end of the show. We're trying really hard not to go over the 3 o'clock hour, so that you can trust that you can listen to the show and then get out to your next thing. But I do want to ask really quick if there's any announcements or questions, events, things coming up that you think the MedTech community might need to know about. Feel free to raise your hand on Zoom here if there's anything you would like to announce. I do have one. Lynn, you are live with us.
Thank you. I'm with InheRET as well, and we are looking for an opportunity to get an oncology clinic on board with our next pilot test. And so if anybody knows of an oncology clinic who would like a free opportunity to use InheRET in exchange for allowing us to access the data, we would love to have them.
Looking for an oncology clinic.
Yes. So they can contact me at lmccain@InheRET, INHERET.com. And I can put that in the chat.
Lynn. Go ahead and put that in the chat before we close. That'd be great. You're looking for an oncology clinic to do some data sharing and to run that for you. That's wonderful. It'd be great if we can help you find that. We'll give it just about another, thank you, Lynn. We'll give it just about another 30 seconds here. If anyone has another announcement, community event, anything coming up that you want folks to know about, we love to get that information spread around. I'll give it just a few more seconds, and not seeing any more hands. I want to thank you. Oh, wait, hold on. We've got one more thing here. Oh, that's just Lynn's thing. LMCCAIN at INHERET.com. L McCain at InheRET.com. Oncology clinics, looking for oncology clinics. Not seeing any other hands. I want to thank y'all for being here today on MedTech Crossroads. We will see you next week for the pitch party judging. And then after that, don't miss Dr. Philip Levy on the show. He is going to speak truth to the COVID situation. We're going to try to leave all the politics behind and just talk about the reality. Looking forward to that on July 2nd. Hope you have a great weekend. Enjoy it. We'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.